Welcome to the BD Experience Podcast, your go-to destination for good conversations, heartwarming stories, and expert tips on personal branding and portrait photography. I'm your host, Barbara Delgado, and today we're going to do things a little differently. We're switching roles. Today we have Lizette Marie, who is our client liaison. I like that word. And rather than me asking questions, Lizette is going to be asking me some questions. So let's dive in.
Awesome. Okay. As the chief photographer of BD Photography, you've seen countless transformations in our clients and their families. Can you share a story that shows the impact of photography on people's lives and how it personally affected you as a photographer?
Oh, I feel like I can't share one story. I feel like there's just a lot of stories. I think off the top of my head that I can kind of recall, I think it would have to be Sylvia.
Love Sylvia.
Sylvia came to us after she had, she's a breast cancer survivor, and she had her breast removed, and she came to us to take photos, and I got to photograph that, and it was just so beautiful. And it was like, you know, to this day, her husband will come up to me and tell me like that they cherish those photos. They love those photos. She's so sensual.
Yes.
You know what I mean? She's still so sensual, and it's still just like, they were some magical photos. I think that was one of a really, really, great experience.
Stood out to you.
Yeah. Just recently, I mean, as simple as the headshot I had, yesterday with one of the OWE members, and she was diagnosed again with cancer. Oh my God, fucking cancer sucks. Sorry. But she's had the tip of her nose removed, and she was gonna have to get a little bit more removed. And like, you know, it's so, I guess like it's a realization that like these photographs aren't just like, oh, it's a beautiful photo of you. It really does. It's a moment in time of these people who have survived something, who have experienced things, who have overcome things. And then they get to have this photograph to remind them of that. And then it reminds me of that, which only inspires me to, you know, do it again the next day and the next day.
Awesome. I love that. You're encapsulating like the moment they're in.
Yeah.
I love that. BD Photography has grown and evolved over the years alongside our clients. Could you tell us more about some of the key moments or milestones in your career that have shaped the studio's approach to photography and customer service?
Oh my God, yes. So when I started, it was just me. You know, I had not in-home studio. I had an apartment studio. And I mean, people would just come by, and, you know, I would just take photos. I didn't know what they were going to wear or what they wanted. I just, you know, I had, you know, a little set that I had made, and it was just like, okay, stand here, take photos. And as, you know, the progression of what I was doing grew, you know, all of these, I don't want to say obstacles, but all of these like challenges came, you know, and it was kind of like me trying to solve these challenges for the client, right? And doing it alone was super, super tough. So obviously I hired an assistant. And then from there, it was kind of like, okay, I have a little bit of help. I could do a little bit more. And then it was kind of still trying to, every single time that I had a photography shoot, solve the issues that were arising. And that's mostly, you know, when people would show up and they'd be wearing a lime green shirt and an orange shirt and a black shirt. And it was just like, how do you make that look good, you know? So, and you know the process. And I mean, you were there. So you started when? In
2019.
2019. So it's been 4 years. Wow.
Time flew by.
So I remember we had just started doing in-person sales, right? When you started?
Yes.
Like we implemented that when you started.
Right. Yes.
And it was because like we were sharing the galleries with our clients, and they didn't know what to do with their photos. So it was almost like solving like, okay, well, now we're going to help you decide what you want and what you need. And so implementing a process, and that's like, hey, you're going to come in, we're going to help you figure out what you're going to wear. Right. We're going to help you figure out what kind of look and mood you want for the photos. And we're going to have a mood board for you. And then guess what? We're also going to do your hair and makeup here, because if you do it outside of the studio, who knows what you'll look like by the time you come here with the humidity and the weather that we have here in Texas. And so I think everything that's happened and the processes that we've implemented are just like solving any type of challenge for our clients and making sure that their experience from beginning to end is just easy.
So you learned, like, as you went through the years, like, okay, this isn't working. How do we fix that? How do we make the experience better each time?
Even today, right? I was like, okay, how do we make, anything, but like any experience that we have, we have to go back and be like, okay, what could have helped us make that experience better for our clients,
I think that's what I really love about Barbara is that she sees a challenge and she doesn't let that defeat her. She's just like, okay, how can I make it better? Like, you have such a positive attitude about everything, like about our clients. You're like such a problem solver at everything. Like, there's no challenge that comes your way that you're not like, okay, I could take that on. Like,
Thank you. I feel like you're very much the same.
Yes.
As well.
I try. I'm learning from the best. How has your personal journey as a photographer influenced the experiences you create for our clients?
I think my photography has evolved in the sense of like when I initially started taking photos, it was because I loved taking photos. And I look back at the photos before I started like taking photos of anybody else. I would take photos of my family, and like we would take trips. Like we have amazing photographs of like our family trips, and that's just awesome. So I feel like being able to create that for my family, and maybe I didn't realize it right away, but creating that for other people's family is just amazing. And I guess it's influenced me in the sense that like I'd love to give to other people what I've been able to create for my
like
own
leaving
family.
a legacy, because I know you've shown me like you brought actually a lot of your old like family photos, like your grandparents,
oh my God,
your dad, your mom as a little girl, like all of those, like you're never going to be able to replace those heirlooms.
Yes. I come from a family of photographers, like creatives, of people like I have an uncle who is a photographer. I have two cousins who started in photography and then grew into having their own advertising agency. So I think as a young girl, I actually just realized, because looking at my mom's photos, I mean, she was born in 1946, but looking at her old photos, I was like, these are great. Like who was taking these photos in 1946? And then she was like, well, your grandfather, your grandfather,
Yes.
Not your grandpa, your grandpa used to love taking photos. And I was like, he did, like, so, and so did my grandpa on my dad's side. So I feel like
it's in your blood.
It's in my blood. It's in my blood. Yeah.
Awesome.
I don't know, did that answer the question?
Yes,
I'm not sure. It
definitely
did. Okay.
I mean, loved it anyways. It worked for me. Many listeners may be curious about the technical side of photography. What are some of the key techniques or approaches you've adopted over the years that have contributed to the unique style and quality we now know as the BD experience?
Okay, so I have a funny story to tell you. I used to do only like natural light, like in my when I moved into a house, and it was like where I lived, and it was also my studio, and I had my backdrop papers. I had a big window, and that was like literally the only light I used. And so for a very long time, I was only shooting with natural light. And then my really good friend Rachel became the marketing director for Cosmoprof, and she was like, we need a photographer for a convention that we're having. Can you do it? This is the type of photos that we need. And I was like, okay. And so they needed flash photography, like strobes and, just all the works. And I was like, I'd never worked with artificial lighting. And I rented equipment, I remember, and I was already dating Gio at the time.
Aww.
And him and we were trying to figure it out. You know what I mean? And I went on this, and we were tethering too. For those of you guys that don't know what tethering is, it's like they're being projected on this screen as I'm shooting.
Right.
My very first time ever shooting with lights. And I just made it work, I just kind of like, so from there, Gio is the one, he's really into equipment. He kept on he's like, okay, we're going to buy this next. Yeah, we need that. Lighting. And we need this. And this is the best light. Learn how to use it. And then I did.
Well, that's awesome.
But most, I think my style, more than lighting and more than anything else, technical. I think I think it's about like connecting with your subject, right? And like getting the best side of your subject, because you can have the best lights and you can have the best camera equipment, but if your subject if you're not able to capture your subject in the best possible way, you know, they're not going to love their photos. And I think for me, that's my main goal, is for whoever I'm photographing to absolutely just love what they're looking at. And that's not easy for a lot of people. So,
right. Yeah. Like there's no one lighting technique. Like you have to change that based on the client, the poses, like all of those factors kind of vary. So
yeah.
And for aspiring photographers in our audience, do you have any tips or insights you'd like to share for capturing memorable moments and creating timeless portraits?
I think if I could give any advice to anybody, it would be, you know, take your time with it. Get to know who you're photographing before taking your photos. I think knowing a person's, you know, vibe and style really helps capture their essence. I also think it's like, find your own way of capturing people. You know, you can copy what anybody's doing, or you could try to be, you know, do what somebody else is doing, but
like the
trends
like
or something.
that.
But it's not until you actually go and like find how you're able to create that connection with your subject. That's when you can really, you know, start taking amazing photos.
Right.
Whether it's with natural light, whether it's with artificial lighting, whether it's whatever it may be, it's all about that connection. So make a connection.
That's awesome. Okay.
Also, don't be afraid to just start. Just do it. You know, don't wait until you have it all figured out. I think it's just a matter of doing it.
Just do it.
Just do it.
Awesome.
Well, there you have it, guys. That was a lot of fun, Lizette. Thank you so much for asking me those very insightful questions. Yes. And thank you guys for joining us and being a part of our photography journey. Make sure to visit us at thebdexperience.com on our website, or the BD Experience on our Instagram. And don't forget to stay tuned for more episodes as we continue to celebrate you through our lens. We'll see you next time.